Hello, this is Howie and I'm here to help you with money. This episode is recorded after the market is closed on Friday, November 13th. As you can see, markets ended up really good, nice and green, positive week, new records for the S&P 500. The Dow rose about 4% this week, S&P rose about 2%, but really the biggest news this week was the Nasdaq. It lost just a little bit, maybe a 0.5% loss, but there was a big rotation this week. What that means is, when Zoom and Peloton, they went down, all the analysts was saying, well, people are selling those winners because a lot of them ran up 100, 200, or even more percentage this year. People take their gains and they move into something a little bit more safer or conservative, or things that didn't move up as much. Like I noticed this week, if I think Coca-Cola ran up pretty well, and you would think, why would a company like Coke run up? So let's check the 5 days. I just zoomed out a little bit longer than the 5 days. Let's go to a month, and you can see this on the 6th. Last week it closed around 40, 49. And then Monday morning, when the Pfizer news came out, you see that it popped up to 52. And then this week it went up, a little bit down, and then it ended up. Just wanted to show you how there may be a rotation in stocks. I have no idea what's going to happen next week. Enough about the markets. I'm going to talk about Bitcoin now. Let me change gears. Let's go to coin market cap. And the first thing I'm going to show you is what are the current prices. So you see, this is a 7-day chart, and you can see Bitcoin had a good run. But what you need to know is they are running up, and they're at almost 2-year highs now. And some people think, well, what's next? And the next thing is, will it ever break the old high? And I think that's like 19,500 or so. So on to Bitcoin news. What I normally like to do is give credit to where credit is due. I like this website, Cointelegraph, has some really great graphics. And so I do use their graphics, and I leave their little watermark on there so you know where I'm getting it from. So let's go into this article here. Options data suggests what's going to happen. So professional traders or wannabe traders use options, and sometimes it gives you a clue to what's happening, sometimes it doesn't. So here's what somebody's saying about Ether. Based on the option prices, they don't think it's going to move above 500 and change. So here you go. I'm not going to read this. There are some, it talks about other different things. But here's the big thing that's interesting. Traders are more optimistic about Bitcoin. And it goes on and it talks about all the different price points and what prices people think. And there's volume. So what they're looking at what price point do people buy options at? And if you scroll down just a bit, look what it says. A lot of bets hovering around 17. Now, 17 is not far away. You just saw that we're at 16 and change. So these bets here at 17, it's not a far away bet. And so that's interesting because, again, we got to keep an eye on the price movement to see whether or not Bitcoin will gain some more traction. Again, this is very volatile. The prices tend to move quite quickly and sharp. You can move 1,000 or 2,000 points in Bitcoin prices. Bitcoin prices have increased nearly 18.5% over 10 days. I would like to show you another article to give you some context to what that means when you compare it to historical prices in the past. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you how my holdings have performed in the last month. So you got to stick around to the end to see that. But for right now, let's jump to this article. This one is really interesting because what they show you is the current price of this article was of 17 hours ago. And what it talks about is, well, how many days in the past was that price above it? And the shocking thing about this article is there's only 12 other times in the past where Bitcoin was above this price. And it goes on to details of what days were those. 10 days were from the scratch when it hit new highs. And I think that's the high that everybody was talking about where it peaked out. And gives you all the details over here. And it covers the all-time high. I don't know what day it was. They didn't list it. But what's interesting is it did talk about the cycle low, and that happened, it was shortly after. It sort of bottomed out, and if you timed it right, best performing asset class, I guess. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's penny stock that went up higher. But it's really interesting because they also then compare to other altcoins, and other altcoins did not do as well. Because if you follow Ether, you would know that Ether used to trade over $1,300 or $1,400. So we are nowhere near it. So what they're saying is there's 200 days in the past where it's higher than today's price. And it goes on to say the same thing about others. So what this is telling you is Bitcoin is in a really strong position at this point. And most experts think that it could make a run past it 19,000 and it may shoot for 20. So we have to follow it and see what happens. And for the last article I found really interesting is this particular article here, written yesterday. But I don't really care about this whole migration mining thing here. And it goes into it. It talks about how people are moving. They mine up here when it's cold. Then they move down here and they mine. And then they move back up. And that was an interesting read. But I didn't really care about it. What I care about was will miners move to other places like North America? Why is mining so popular in China? You would think in a communist country, mining farms are really not popular. But apparently it is. And I don't know how they get electricity so cheap. Do they bribe local officials to let them do it? Because how do you get cheap electricity? That's the key to mining. You got to go get some cheap electricity. And this is the part that I really wanted to focus on. China accounted for more than 70% of the world's crypto mining market. So that means they're running a lot of miners, and which surprised me. Again, you would think a country where if you don't have freedom to do whatever you want, the government restricts everything, then why would Bitcoin be so popular, and how do you stop something like that? You would think something like in America should be more. Now, I understand it. Electricity cost is higher, much harder to run mining farms. It's no different from the cost of labor, right? The whole concept of why run a business in America, the labor so expensive. If I run in the middle of nowhere in Africa or somewhere in India or Indonesia or Philippines, if labor cost is cheaper, then of course producing a product is more profitable. And Bitcoin mining is the same thing. The cheapest thing is what? You need space, warehouse, electricity, some infrastructure. You run your mine, you hire some labor to monitor it when these things crash or need a reboot or whatever it needs. You need someone to, get the machine back on board. But I do find this is really interesting, as in China dominated. Some people suggest that Russia could be the next big place. There may be other places that are where people think that's where they're going. And here you go. It covers that right here. Will Chinese miners now move, right? And that's nearby, right? Depending on what part of Russia you go to, it depends on how close that is. And if you scroll down here, will they be moving to North America? We don't know. I don't think so. I just think North America is just too expensive. Electricity is too expensive. I don't think that's a realistic thing. But wanted to give you that quick take. Now onto my crypto. And here you go. This is what I presented last month and the value. And you can see I took a snapshot of it. And you can see because it's like fractional share ownership. In Bitcoin, I can't afford one whole Bitcoin. So I'm just going to buy, you see what I did? I bought a fraction of a Bitcoin. And the difference is so small. You see that? I just went up a little bit. Ether was 4.21 Ether. Now I have 4.4. But what's the difference is the value has increased, right? The market in 1 month has moved up. And you can see that here, 3.2. And look, all the digits are exactly the same in Litecoin. And I have the exact same. The difference is $40. And in this case, this is a 20% run up. So you can see the value here of $2,000, and it is up nearly 1,000. And in my Ether, same thing. It's on almost a 25% run up. So that's all the update I have. I don't do a lot of Bitcoin updates right now, but I expect Bitcoin may hold up. But again, it is so hard to predict. I am not a financial advisor or planner. Please do your own due diligence. This is a risky asset class. It will or could go to zero. And so you make sure you do your own research. No one here is telling you to buy anything. But I follow the market and I follow the price of it. I think it's a very interesting thing to follow. But again, it could be a nothing burger. It can go straight to zero. So make sure you understand the risk before you do anything. And on the last piece of this segment, I'm going to leave you with my thoughts on digital currency. Should you invest in it? That is always the biggest question. And my answer is, it depends on where you are at. And what I mean by that is, if you have $0 to your name and have no other investment, then the answer is no. I don't recommend you invest in Bitcoins or any coins if you don't have any other investments. If you tell me, well, I have a 401k plan, I have some retirement money, I paid off my house, then it's different. You're in a different situation, right? You have other assets. You own a house, you have some 401k money, you're invested in the stock market, maybe you have some gold or silver or whatever else you may have. And if that's you, then it's different. The answer is going to be different. Then you're saying, hey, maybe you want to try something different. That's why people buy paintings or antique cars or a second house or a third house, right? When you have other investments, sometimes you want to diversify into something different. And same here. I will never suggest or advise anyone to get into Bitcoin because you're hoping for this 100 extra money. So I would never advise that. You see how much I have? I don't have a lot. I have $3,000 barely, and it's only up because the market is up. If Bitcoin goes 50% drop, I'm back down to $1,000. But again, it should be in the right proportion to your net worth, and that's the best answer I can give you. There is no, hey, but what if that thing goes to 1 million? Well, if it goes to 1 million, so what, right? It was still high risk, and I still would give the same advice. And that's the hardest piece about risk management, because the same ability how something can go to 1 million, it's the same way something can go to zero. This asset class is a very high risk asset. It could still go to zero, and a lot of people will lose money. And if you're one of those guys who went all in, you can be broke really fast. Now, if Bitcoin works and it never goes to zero, the people who went all in will look like geniuses, right? People will say, oh, look, he made 400 times returns, something he could have never done in the stock market or real estate. And that may be a true statement, but it's the risk that we're talking about. What is the right risk profile or the right risk management for something that is very risky? And no one has a good formula for it, right? You can't say, hey, everybody should go 50% into it. I don't know what the right answer is. What I say is whatever your tolerance is for the loss. Always accept the max loss. If this thing goes to zero and you put 5,000 in it, can you bear the loss? And apparently I cannot. You see, I only have $2,000 in crypto. Because if it goes to zero, I can bear the loss and I will say, hey, I missed my 2,000. It didn't work out. Sure, I took a chance and I knew the risk. But if it goes to 1 million, my 2,000 is not going to be worth much. And so you also have to accept that too. But that's my final word of advice. Please like and subscribe. I don't just do crypto. I do a little bit of everything else. I love many different aspects of investing. Stock market, dividends, options. I even like health insurance and the way you can use velocity banking or infinite banking. So I'm a big fan of a lot of different topics, and when you use all these different methods together, I think that's really the right answer. I'm not a big fan of one strategy is the only strategy and that's the only thing that works. I'm a big fan of you diversify your methods, and if one or two of them work or if all of them work together, then that's wonderful, right? That's what I believe is the best and safest way to do this. Not just go all in on one asset class or one. Like if I was 100% in stock market and the stock market goes to zero, then what happens? Well, most of you say, well, but you got a home, or you got, I don't know, clothes on your back, and you got a car in your driveway, right? Those are different things that we have. And it's the same concept with investing. I don't think anyone should ever go 100% in a particular asset class. With that, hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next month, let's see what happens. Comment below if you think this thing will hit 17, 18,000 by next month, or will this thing drop back down to 14 or 13,000? Looking forward to your comments. Stay healthy out there. As always, let's like and subscribe. Let's get other people winning with money and help me share this message. I know we can do this one person at a time. And let's do this together. And we'll also do this $1 at a time. So, peace out. Have a profitable day. Bye-bye.